is all, this is our turf. So enjoy, please. Please make welcome.
No.
Queen.
No, I've been yes.
Thank you.
So we'll talk about having everything that you've learned so far in mind. It applies to your relationship. It does. Because, and I know that for relationships, there's a lot of pressure when it comes to relationships. And sometimes, especially when you feel like there's a delay, maybe it has reached that time in your life where you feel like this is the time you should be settling down. It begins to be like a delay. And sometimes delay can pressure you. Timing can pressure you. And especially if you don't understand the season God is taking you through, you may think that you are being delayed, meanwhile you are not. Or maybe you are actually being delayed because there is something that you have not done to align to what the king requires. You know, like there's a part where Coach Sanu shared in that from that video. Can we see that? I had to write it here. He said, marriage is not guaranteed in the kingdom. As in, like, it's not. And this most times this will just sound somehow because you feel like God prioritizes marriage. As in, like, God will never prioritize. God will never prioritize anything above his purpose for you. Never. He will never prioritize anything above his purpose for you. Marriage, I always tell people, is added. You see that seek first the kingdom of God and every other thing. Marriage is inside. The seek first the kingdom of God is not seek first marriage. So as much as God instituted marriage and he has an agenda with marriage, it has to be his standard of marriage. You know, and so if you are not going to meet up to that standard, it becomes a problem for him because he knows that if you enter a marriage that does not align with his will and his purpose, it takes away your purpose. You understand? As in, like, he stands the chance of losing you. And he doesn't want to lose you in marriage. He doesn't want to lose you. He wants to still have you as his own, doing his will, working in his purpose. So if he knows that marriage is going to make him lose you, and there are some of you that, in fact, there's a call upon your life that God cannot even take chances. And you just have to be able to deal with that. I'm not saying you will not get married, though. I'm not saying, but be sure that you are aligned and you're not being pressured by society or pop culture. You are aligned. Just be following your father to lead you and to guide you. So he said marriage, and this is what Coach Swanu pointed out in the group from the video, and it just stood up. He said marriage is not guaranteed in the kingdom. Like, it's not as much of a priority like you think, because now people have traded. People would rather spend 5 days prayer and fasting for the one, but they cannot spend even 1 day seeking God for their purpose, as a seeking to know who they are and what he has called them to do. But they can spend like days. In fact, they can spend 1 month fasting for the one, but they cannot spend time to seek God's purpose for their life because they feel that the society has programmed our mind to believe that the only thing that marriage is the utmost thing, and it's not. It's just something that is added to us. You know, it's something that it's a gift, it's a privilege, but it's not the ultimate. The ultimate pursuit is the king and the kingdom. That's it. Every other thing is added, and once your desires align with his desire, then he will bring someone into that. So it's a calling based on your kingdom assignments, requirements. If you are properly positioned for it, you will get it. And this standard is everything here. Yeah. So remember everything, there is a time and a season. So you have to understand the time and the season God is taking you through, so that you will know where you are, where you are going, and where you will eventually end up. So don't miss your season by being religious, or your positioning by being promiscuous. So you see why your standards have to be top notch, because let me tell you, even the person you are going to end up with is going to identify you by your standards. It's going to identify you by your standards. So that when he said, when you go out on a date or to a date with someone, you know, you want to hold back. You don't want them to know who you are. You don't want to reveal, you know, your values and this thing. What if that's the person? But the person is looking for what he can use to identify you, because there's a way God connects us. He's the orchestrator. So when you meet the one, he can only bring the person your way, but the rest will be up to you. to do. As in, like, so if you're now holding back, you don't want to, or maybe you're trying to form, maybe you think that that's what the person likes, you begin to form, and borrow standards from other places, and the person cannot even identify you perfectly. You understand? So I'm just going to read some things that I wrote. You can go back to the last time. I'm just going to read some things that I wrote, and I had to write them down because I don't want to forget, because I know that these are things that probably will be in your heart and in your mind, and maybe some questions that you will have. So I'm going to just run them quickly, and you're going to have to excuse me so I can just read them, because I really do know. I know how important this topic is to you and to all of us. So I wrote here, I said, you have no business being in a relationship if you do not have standards. You have no business. If you've not been able to reach that point where you are able to display, you remember the slide that we talked about, discovery, develop, display. If you have not been able to fully display, as in like you have strong convictions that have made you, create values, that have now made you create standards, then you have no business being in a relationship. And you have no business being in a relationship with someone that has no standards. You may have, and that's the problem most times. There are people that have standards, and then they will go and end up with someone that does not have, because they know how to adjust themselves to fit that person's preference. And then they begin to have issues, and they are wondering why. So you have no business being in a relationship if you have not been able to fully define your standards, because your standards prove that you know who you are. Your standards prove that you have discovered who you are, your identity, which is very critical even in marriage. So your standards prove that you have strong identity. You don't have identity crisis. You know who you are, and so because you know who you are, you have been able to identify your values. The things.
I have to come to the hospital to get the information on expression.
Person.
Hey, sir, hold on for a moment.
I don't know how to do that.
I'm gonna start stitching you up.
Yeah.
You just have to. We're trying to.
Okay, so you have no business being in a relationship with someone who doesn't have standards, and you have no business being in a relationship if you don't, because standards prove that you have discovered who you are, your identity, which is important for you before you even get into a relationship and you get into marriage. Because if you don't define who you are, your relationship will define you, because you'll be creating yourself out of the relationship. So let's say the person likes someone that is quiet. You start trying to be quiet because the person you understand. But if you know that, if you already know yourself that you like to talk, and if let's say you already know that, let's say you already know that you are philanthropic, you like to give, you're the kind of person that likes to give, you already know that. So you value giving, you value helping people, and then you have set a standard that you cannot marry someone who is stingy. Do you understand? And so it's easy for you to identify, like, this person is like a stingy. So it means that two of you cannot really, because the day you now come and tell him that I want to do outreach, and he'll be like, he cannot relate, and then you now start quarreling. So you have to have your standards clearly defined before you get into a relationship, because that's how the person will even know you. That's how the person will be able to even realize whether you are the kind of person that they even want to be with, except they are being pretentious. So that's that. And then your standards, you have to write these things down. You have to write your values, who you are, your values, your standards, your expectations. It helps, because sometimes you just have this thing in your head, and having it in your head is not enough. You have to have it written out somewhere, your core values, your identity, your purpose, then your expectations. Then you can now begin to write the kind of person that fits into this thing that I've created, so that it helps you. It filters, it helps you filter, and it helps you add or subtract. So you don't have a multitude of people coming around you disturbing you. You as in, even if they are disturbing you, are able to streamline. Let's say you have 10 people disturbing you, you are able to streamline through what you have come to know about yourself, your values, your beliefs, and your standards and all of that. So if the person does not, and even if the person, it doesn't necessarily mean that two of you will have exact same standards. Do you understand? It doesn't mean that because I am philanthropic, the person too has to be, but at least he has the tendency to want to give. He wouldn't have a problem with that. But maybe his which other trait now would that be?
Yeah.
Maybe he has
Something
all
to
that,
complement
he has something
what
to
you do.
complement what you do.
Yeah.
You know, so it's easy. So you have to look whether these standards can be collaborative, whether these are standards that can complement each other or can blend in with each other. Because it's not just that the person has standards, but the standards align at the end of the day. Can it be merged and collaborated? You know, so that those are things that you look for in a relationship. So how do I know a person has standards? You know, how do I know? Because I know that this will be maybe in your heart. How do I know that a person has standards? You will know by your communication. You have to be very, and this is it, when you want to date someone or you want to court someone, you know, you want to be in courtship, you have to learn to be very observant and attentive. You have to learn to listen. Listen so well that you will hear what even the person is not even saying. You have to learn to be attentive. And that's when you go on, especially when you go on the first date. Don't just be casual. Yeah, you are casual and everything, but be attentive. You can be laughing, but be attentive. You know, even from where the person invites you to, you could already begin. Let's say the person invites you to a club, and you know that you're already a spiritual person, and you are very conscious of where you go to, and the person say, let's meet in a club. That's already a red flag. It already shows that your standard and the person's standard does not. But if you now choose to go to the club, it already shows that you are not even strong on your own convictions. And then it will now be difficult to now be proving to the person that
what if the person choose church?
It's not by church. It's not by church. Thank you very much. You know, maybe the person has already. Maybe the person has already.
I'm not a nice restaurant.
The person has already scoped you and knows that this girl like that. I'm saying that let's meet in
The
church or let's meet in the restaurant near church.
Don't follow.
Don't fall for it. Be attentive. And this is why I tell people often, you know, especially believers, and it will look like we're sounding too spiritual, but you have to be discerning. It's one relational tool that we don't use at all, as in like when it comes to dating, especially for something as important as getting married. You have to be able to know that this is a life decision. So you have to bring out all your arsenals when you're about to go on a date or meet someone. Don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted, because when you are discerning, you're able to sense. It's not like you're going to go spiritual, you tie your hair. You know, it's not by that. And it's not when you want to go on a date that you begin to want to be discerning. No, it's a life that you live. You know, and this one is long story now, because these are the things that I teach in my You Before Us course. You know, because when you are now searching for the one you want to end up with, that's when you now want to be more discerning. That's when you now want to be praying more. That's when you now, no, it's something that you already are. You know, so when you get there, you're just able to sense, you know, there's a way, and maybe you may not even sense immediately, but something will just tell you, let's meet again. And then you meet the person again, and you are attentive. And one of the things that really helps, you know, because you can even date someone for a long time before you really discover who they are.
Yeah.
You know, time reveals a lot. And this is why I always tell people, there are stages of relationship, especially as a believer. We don't prioritize emotional and physical. We prioritize spiritual and friendship.
Yeah.
We prioritize spiritual and friendship first, because once emotional and physical enters, forget observing,
brain has gone.
Forget attentive, forget listening. You will not be able to get the core of what you want, because you are already emotionally invested, so you can't see. It will take the grace of God to open your eyes to see when the red flags are there, or things are staring at you that are saying, no, this person is not for me. So you have to be committed enough and love yourself enough, love your purpose enough to give it time. Don't be in a hurry. Someone that loves you, that truly loves you, will give you the time that you need. And I'm not saying you should take excessive time because you yourself are not sure of yourself. This is somebody that you're already sure of who you are and what you want. So it's not like you're just trying to waste the person's time for nothing, but you are being guided. You know what you are looking for. You know, so this is very important. So how do you know that someone has standards? Be very attentive. You observe and listen. Pay attention to the little things that they do. That's where you don't look at the big things. Maybe they buy you big flower. Big flower will not cover your eyes. You cannot even see. You cannot even see. You know, when their eyes are even wandering away. You understand? So you have to be very, very attentive, and try as much as possible not to become emotional and physical before you are able to really know the person. You understand? So because those things cloud your judgment. So you have to keep an open mind when you are going into a relationship. And yes, when you meet this person, So I wrote it, before you get mushy and all teary eye, just make sure that you have been able to know who this person really is. You know, and the thing about building friendship is that you have to know whether you even like this person before you even begin to talk about love. Because you have to, sometimes in marriage, it's not like you will love you, it's not like you'll be loving the person 24/7, 7/4 and everything. But you just like the person, you know, and you're just committed to the person regardless. So you have to know whether this is somebody that is worth all of these things, you know, to you, you know, before you even. And if you're a guy and you're pursuing a lady, you know, based on externals, you know, you're not ready to know the person's core, which is why time is important. If someone is not willing to give you time to communicate and to know one another, you have to watch that person very well, because they don't want you to have time to know them.
They're in a hurry.
They're in a hurry.
Quick,
you know, so if a person is chasing you for external, it will be hurry. But someone who really wants to know you will want to know you. And if you're a guy and you're chasing someone based on the external, based on how they look or what they have, you know, you are probably lost. You're not in love. You're probably in lost. And if you're a lady and your admiration for a guy is external, maybe he has money. And I said admiration, I did not say pursuit, because under no circumstances are you allowed to pursue a man. Under no circumstances are you allowed to be the one that will pursue. A man pursues. Yes, when you both get married, there's a collaborative pursuit in the marriage. You know? Yeah, it's true. You know, you have, because that's how it's supposed. That's how God designed it to be. Because that already shows leadership.
That's it.
You know, but if you have the one, if you have to be the one to pursue the guy, you have to be the one to even propose, because
they say they cannot shoot shots.
See, let me tell you, I shot a shot.
I shot a shot.
But it was not like I pursued. You know, I already knew. God already told me that this was my husband, and I know that a lot of people it doesn't have to be that God will tell you. God told me, because God knew the kind of person that I was. Like, if I don't tell this other father, this person is her husband, she will not give him attention. So he knows the kind of person I am, and he knows how important it is for me to hear him speak. You know, and so
okay,
shoot your shot, but don't pursue. Thank you, Amade. Don't do the chasing.
Yeah, Ikruka said, position yourself.
Position yourself to be pursued. Oh, thank you. These are my you before us, students. You know, position yourself to be pursued, but don't pursue.
And shoot after aiming well. Make you shoot. Don't shoot and run.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So your attention should be on what is on the inside.
You
know, even if, you know, we're going to talk about negotiables and non-negotiables, because it's not like I'll say, you know, the appearance is not important, you know, but that cannot be your priority. That cannot be your priority at all. You know, so okay, so, and then you cannot have unrealistic standards. That's why it's important what we taught you. You know, your standards cannot be unrealistic.
Yeah.
And your standards cannot be borrowed, as in from culture, from social media.
Borrowed standards.
It can't be borrowed standards. Your standards have to be your standard based on who you are, what you believe, and what you stand for. That should be your standard. And as a kingdom person, it should be based on God's kingdom's principles. That's your standard. So you don't, once you borrow you can't stand on something that you did not lay any foundation on. So you just borrow that. Before you know, you collapse. You know, so you can't have unrealistic standards, you know, and standards that are not that do not hold any water. And you cannot set standards that you yourself you cannot keep. As in, like, you cannot demand from someone what you cannot become. As in, like, you are saying you want someone who is financially stable, but you are not financially stable. How does that make sense? So you cannot demand, if you are creating standards, be sure that these standards that you are setting, you too, because this is you, and that's why it's very important that standards come from your core. Because this is you, this is what you are capable of doing and who you are. So it's easy for you to communicate. So your standards cannot be vague. They cannot be unrealistic. It has to be built on something very solid, something more than society and culture. It has to be built on purpose and love for yourself. You know, you have to love yourself, and love for yourself begins from when you your love from God. You know, and it's very key. You know, so when you don't have any convictions on your standards, you just set careless standards, and the standards are not, and that's how standards become walls. That's how standards become walls, because I wrote sometime that standards are position you for protection. So they are like protective gates. You understand? But they can become walls when they are unrealistic, they don't have any basis, they don't have any foundation, and it just become walls because you are just building things that are not relevant, or you don't even know why you are even keeping those standards. So you cannot demand standards from someone when you are not willing to keep those standards. You know, so I've said that. So standards are filters that will help you filter to the prospective individual, and you know someone's standards by communicating. You communicate, you talk a lot. You see, you have to talk when you are starting a relationship. You have to talk a lot.
You are saying this. We started when night call was raining that time.
Yeah, don't sit down and be listening to music together, Netflix and chilling. Look for dates that do things that will make you talk, that will make you have conversations. Yes, a Netflix and chill can be good too, depending on the film, or not the one that will not make you start feeling one kind and you want to start, you know. But if you are watching something, at least you can even begin to know the person's values, person's perspective, just from what. But don't just watch and say, we're watching Netflix and chill, and you're just enjoying it. You're not even trying to benefit, because every meeting has to be beneficial. It's an opportunity to get to know the person better. And let's say you are not in, two of you are not physically in the same place. Communication is very key. It's by talking, you talk, communicate. That's how you know each other more. So it's dangerous to present false standards. It's dangerous because there are some people that just formulate standards to meet someone, and maybe the person probably falls for it. So it's dangerous to present yourself as something that you are not. And you should also know that there are people who are capable of presenting themselves as something they are not. That's why I say you have to be attentive and discerning and be very open to communication, so that you can really get to know the details of the person. You know, so just as we said, standards will either repel or it will attract. So this is where I talk about the negotiables. You know, we have non-negotiables and negotiables, and this is like they are must have and should have, you know, because you will say now, so when should I lower my standards? You know, it will be never, but there are some non-negotiables that you may begin to consider based on certain circumstances or certain things. You know, there are certain, even those non-negotiables have to be acceptable by there are certain parameters that you can set for that.
Yeah.
So the non-negotiables are your faith, that's your beliefs, your spirituality. They are your non-negotiables, because you know that your relationship with God is valuable to you. So you do not negotiate that. So you need to be sure that the person is not just a Christian, but shares your Christian doctrine, as in share your beliefs. Not that you are speaking in tongues and the person is saying, what are you speaking? What kind of language is this one? So you have to be sure that two of you are compatible spiritually, which is supposed to be your priority before anything else. You know, so those are your non-negotiables. You don't, your non-negotiable is purity. You don't negotiate the purity of your heart and your mind, because your temple is the body of the Holy Ghost, and you know that. And you know that, in fact, these non-negotiables are standards that directly impact on your identity. So that's why they are non-negotiable, because they have the tendency to pull you down from the person that God has designed you to be. That's why you don't negotiate them. The non-negotiables are, you don't negotiate commitments. Yeah. The person has to show some level of commitment, because you will need it in the marriage for life. You have to prioritize service. The person should be one who can serve you, and you will see it by the way the person behaves and the person treats. That's why I said time is of the essence. It reveals these things to you. Service, the person has to, not just how the person even serves you, or how the person commits to you. How the person commits to things generally itself even tells how the person can even commit to you. How the person commits to God, commits to his work, commits to everything. He's able to balance it all. Not that when you get married now, he begins to commit to his work more than he's committing to you. He cannot balance anything. You know, so these are non-negotiables, and I'm trying to rush now because I'm really out of time. Service, sacrifice. You have to be sure that this person can go out of their way for you, and it will show. You have to be willing to see it, and you have to be patient enough to see it, and it's a non-negotiable. And I'm telling you this, especially this commitment, service, and sacrifice, they are the core of marriage. You cannot even afford somebody that cannot be these things to you. I'm not saying that this person will be perfect, but at least this person prioritizes, as in it is submissive enough to the leadership of God to be able to build these things in his life, and he sees them as valuable too. You understand? So, and also person is passionate. How does the person, how does the person, how that's the pursuit that we're talking about. How passionate is this person about you? As in, what are they ready to do for you, you know, in that relationship? You know, so that's very important. So those are the non-negotiables, because they directly impact on your identity and who you are in Christ. You know, so the negotiables, and these are based on, you have to be very careful when you begin to do this, because if you don't decide, as in, if you don't weigh it very well, it might still become an issue even in the marriage. So let's say, yeah, honey, what are the what are the non-negotiables?
So you've done the non-negotiables, yeah.
So the negotiables that should have.
They should have.
The non-negotiables are the must have,
Yeah.
must have it. Then the negotiables are the should have. Like, it would be nice if the person was taller, but I'm willing to take someone who is a bit shorter. You understand? So those are the kind of should it as a
so yeah.
nice.
So yeah. Physical appearance, you know, to some people is very, very key, very, very important. Yeah, but you may want to prioritize health. The person has to be healthy, you know, than just having a physical appearance. Yeah, so you may want to prioritize that. Yeah, and in terms of age also, yeah, those are negotiables. There's no hard and fast rule, you know, but you may not want to compromise on maturity. So you can see that is a give and take. Yeah, so you may want to negotiate in terms of age. Yeah, maybe the guy is a bit younger than you are, you know, and it's something you can live with, and the guy is comfortable with that, but the guy has to be matured. So you may not want to negotiate maturity, but you can negotiate, you know, when it has to do with age. That shouldn't be a barrier, so to speak, because yeah, what you want is a matured person, and not just somebody who has the age but is not matured. Yeah, physically too, things can change. Things can change. Those are negotiables. Yeah, but what I said before was healthy. The person should have healthy habits. It's very, 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 very important. So those things are negotiables. Yeah. So these are some. You have some already. Ethnicity, culture, all those things. Family backgrounds.
Family backgrounds too. And we're saying these non-negotiables it has to, because family background. Let's say the person now is from a background of a family that they are into fetish and diabolical things, you know, and you know that you're spiritual, and him too, he's a Christian, you are spiritually compatible, you know, but somehow he condones what they do. As in, like, he can say, oh, my daddy is doing something, we call one name, and he's willing to, you know, go and participate, not to say, oh, let me just show up in honor of my dad, but he's willing to go and participate and maybe do the rituals and all those kind of things. Then you have to now start considering, you know, is this something that I can live with? Those kinds of things.
See, these things we are saying here is from stories we have heard. We're not trying to say or cook it from somewhere. Stories we have heard. People share their testimony. I've seen a guy who his wife started manifesting and said, man, she's going back to culture. She's tired of his culture. This is what her family is known for, and she's going back. And during their courtship, she pretended to be a sister, you know, and all of a sudden is there. So at that particular point in time, bringing things to the house that, this is the reason why I'm not taking in. I have to, you know, I have to put this, I have to go and search here, you know, in a bid to get a child or something. So things happen, and it has led to the damage of a lot of marriage. Something that is supposed to be beautiful has turned into something sour, you know, and giving them sadness. And they have no choice than to break away or divorce or something, or separate, you know, and that's not what we want to happen, you know. So please consider these things, and you could develop some on your own, some things that you know that they are non-negotiables for you.
Yeah, so it will be good
and
for
some
you
things to pen them down, know what they are, don't assume. Yeah, it is very, very Very, very important. I had my share of it, and I knew what my negotiables were and what my non-negotiables were. And I thank God it's working for me today.
Okay, so something, sorry, I know it was taking time, but something, a negotiable,
Yeah.
you know, of course, when you want to get married, you want to get married someone who is already who is financially stable, you know, but when I met my husband, he was still in school, you know, so you know, even if he told me that we'll get married in 3 years, but what were his chances of finishing school and getting a job and doing this and doing that? So it was a negotiable, but I needed to consider it. So what were the things that I now used to weigh it? I could already see that even in school, he was already doing something to make money, as in like he was putting himself through school. You know, he didn't used to take money from his mom. He was already, he was fending for himself in school. Though he was a student, but he was already fending for himself. And of course, the conversations we've had, how he has done lesson when after he finished secondary school, he was waiting for school, he was doing lesson, he was learning computer. So it already showed me that this person had the how will I put it?
The drive,
had the drive, you know, to do something, to do something. And he wasn't a careless, he never asked me for money. And so it was safe. You know, and there are times that we feel like, oh, maybe I should just help. It's not even that I had so much money, you know.
Yeah, patterns.
Yeah, so I could see patterns.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ikunuka. I could see patterns that can, and of course, I was also riding on the fact that God had told me that this was the person. So it was not just like, oh, I just said, I will believe by faith. No, I already knew that this was the person. So I had to wait out and I said, so if God has told me that this is the person and he has these patterns that I know can lead to success, then it's fine, you know. So that was what helped me. So that was just a practical example.
Amazing. Yeah. So at this point, we would like to put a pause here and probably a stop. I believe that we've been able to share quite a lot of information, and some are stuck with you, and you do well to run with them. There are one or two. There's just a question that came in earlier on. I'd just like to respond to that quickly. Yeah, but what of if to birth our purpose is for marriage? Somebody asked, yeah, when the statement that was shared talked about marriage, that marriage is not guaranteed in the kingdom, you know. Now, for me personally, yeah, marriage as an individual, even in marriage, I am unique and I have my purpose in God. So that is sure. I have my own unique purpose in God, and I need to discover that. God did not, as it were, you know, design me with the mind of marriage. I don't know if you get it. It's for his glory, and there's a specific call he has for me. But my marriage also, understanding the route I've taken, and I know that God led me here, even in this marriage, and it's what I desired. We have been able to find our purpose together, what we ought to do. So there's this unique one individual to us. For instance, now she's a full-fledged relationship coach. I have my flair for men, and that's my flair, you know, to be able to restore, you know, manhood and fatherhood. That's my own flair, you know, and I'm drawn to that. So we have our unique, but as a team together, we still fall under the umbrella of what is called the family. So for the fact that you don't wait for marriage to happen before you discover purpose. No, you don't. You don't wait for marriage to discover purpose. No, discover it. Marriage is an added, just like she said, and it's very correct.
Yeah. And you can also, that's why I said the journey to discovering your purpose. It's a journey. And it's not like you have it all, like you now know the purpose, it's all clear, but at least you have an idea of it, and you are working, you already have a sense of your purpose, and you're already working towards, and then it can be enhanced in your marriage. And then that is progressive, you know, because I finally found the core of my purpose in marriage. So it's not like I came in, I already knew who I was before I got married. As in, I was sure of my identity in Christ and who he wanted me to become. Even if I did not have the specific purpose, I knew that I had a goal to conform to the image and likeness of Christ, and I was holding on to that. I knew that he had called me to be of help to people, You know, even if I did not have the specific that, oh, it's to families and to relationships, at least I knew that I had something about me that people always come to me for help. And so I had that sense of purpose. But when I got into marriage, that's when it was in marriage that it became specific, that you are called to people in relationship and people that are married. You know, so it's progressive. So
okay.
It's not like you have it all figured out.
Yeah. Correct. Thank you very much, Honey, for that. Yeah, so somebody asked a question. That's a very nice question. Please, all these qualities that you listed, yeah, where does someone find these men? All the men on the call tonight.
I don't know.
There's a cry, there's a need out there, you know, and just like concerning the cult, you know, Jesus didn't have many needs, but when he asked for the cult, he said the master is in need of this one. Yeah. Do you understand? So there is a need. And that need has to be met. Definitely, this has been the question of a lot of young, amazing damsels. And, you know, where are these men? So I think some of them are on the call
and
tonight.
even the guys too are also asking, where are the ladies?
Yeah, the guys too are also asking. Just as you're asking, they're also asking. Am I saying, guys on the call, please, are you asking the same question?
Yes, sir.
If you're, I can't hear you.
Okay, I'm muted.
Yeah, no, it's unmuted, but we can't hear him.
Oh, really? I can't hear him.
Guys on the call.
I said, seriously, where are the girls? So we are tired of breakfast. Where are the girls?
Yeah, so these are the truth is this, it's all a function of standards, all a function of a clash of standards. People not really identifying what they want and becoming what they want, positioning themselves for what they want.
If more people did that, it would be
if more people did that, it would be easier.
And one of the things
Do you
that
understand?
I feel like it's a big issue even in this generation, because even me too, I was asking God, because I know a lot of good young ladies, you know, and good guys. I was wondering, like, what's happening? And that's when he told me that marriage was not his number one priority for his people. That's when he told me that thing, you know. And then he also told me that there's something about perception, you know. His people are not, they're not able to be identified, you know. And so you see this wanting to mix, you know, culture, as in like you want to be for them and for God, you know, you want to be woke and be spiritual at the same time. You know, it's confusing, you know, because when the person that God brings your way comes, the person will need to identify you in a certain way. And if the person doesn't identify you that way, it becomes a problem. You know, so perception is always very important. And that's why I always tell people, the way you appear, even on social media, the way you appear is important. Even if God told me my husband was the one, and I went to his social media page and saw some kind of things, I will go and talk to God. I'm not sure this is the person I want to marry.
Yeah.
So, John, so perception is very important in this generation, especially at a time where, although who you are inside is important, what people look at appearance first. That's what people look at. They perceive you from what you present. They don't know your inside. From your conversation, from the way you look, they begin to draw conclusion about you, even without knowing you very well. So your perception matters a lot. And then your alignment is also important, because culture, society is creating so much you know, noise. You know, so God's people are beginning to buy the standards and the beliefs and the ideas of the world, and even thinking that it is true, and it is not producing the results that we want. And that's one of the things I teach in my You Before Us course, you know, trying to get single individuals to change the way they think, you know, towards marriage and towards relationship and marriage, because it also helps you, you know, so that at the end of the day, you two are not also frustrated even in waiting, because it's important how you wait. And just as he said, always remember that for every standard and every value that you try to keep within the boundaries of God's kingdom, just as the video said, the reward is not marriage. The reward at the end of the day is eternal life. Like I always say, the highest you'll be married on earth, highest, let's say you live long, like you want to live long, 100 years, but the eternity is long. And so that is our goal. Eternity is our goal. And I know it may sound like, yeah, it's sounding somehow, but that's your priority first, even before marriage. You know, so don't think that because I am keeping my standards, you know, so God's going to reward me with marriage. No,
Mm, mm.
he has already rewarded you with life by saving you from the shackles of death. He sent his son to prove his love for you. You know, so marriage is not, and then again, to your standards, there are certain things you also have to add to your virtues. You understand? Because you cannot just say, I have standards. Now you have to be discerning. You have to constantly be aligned with the voice of the king and his leadership. You have to be open to his direction, because there are people who had standards and they ended up with people who do not even value those standards. It meant nothing to them. So just be open in keeping your standards. There are people out there who do not value your standards. And so even if you get married to them and you are trying to say, but you married me pure, I was a virgin, it doesn't do anything for them, because even if it did before, maybe inside the marriage, because a lot of things goes on inside marriage that can begin to make you lose interest in certain things that even drew you and close to your spouse in the first place. So it's very important that you keep these standards with the mind that is unto God. Everything we do is unto God, not for what we can. That's why we serve God for who he is, not just for what he can give. Because if you keep doing it for what you can give, you will get frustrated. And once there's a way you'll be frustrated, you will not be positioned to even receive anything from him. And if you desire to be married, to be in a relationship, so those people, they are out there, I promise you. Good men, good ladies, they're out there, they are there. Don't think, Elijah was sure that he was the only one that was remaining that had not bowed to the prophet, or to the god of Baal or something. He was very sure. It was God that told him, I have 7,000 men reserved. So there are people, don't say that there are people, and you have to believe that you have to believe that the one that is for you will come your way. What you say to is very, very important. If you say good men are finished, they will be finished in your eye and your presence and your area. So you have to keep, you have to keep believing.
Area.
Yeah.
Wow. So on this note, we've spent a lot of time tonight. Some of you may have questions.
Indeed.
You can put it on the chat box, WhatsApp. You have our numbers by now. You should be able to call us, and we'll have more of this. We hope to have more of these conversations and engagements on different subjects, as we move on. Just to be able to drill more into them. And we are always available. I want to seriously thank you for your time. We do not take it for granted. We know we spent more than we projected, but I want to sincerely appreciate you. I know it's been worth your while, and I know you won't remain the same, and your standards will speak for you, and it will be a channel, to be able to receive those things that God has preserved for you. If you desire to get married, your desires are valid. Is a desire and is valid. So have that desire in check with the right standards in place, and definitely you will attract the right people. So just be your best every day. Do your best every day. Make sure you put your best foot forward every day. People are counting on you. Some people will survive on the standards you decide to uphold. So keep on doing it. Keep on doing it. Keep being your best. Keep doing your best. And we'll keep engaging on the platform. Once again, my name is Femi Boro, and this is my beloved wife, Odufa Boro. We are visionaries of the Tri-Family Network. It's basically on families. And everyone who is a part of the family structure. And so we're reaching out to the singles, the young ones, every strata. And I want to seriously thank you for your time. And hope to see you again sometime in the future, in the near future. So thank you so much. I can see your comments on the group. Thank you very much. I seriously appreciate this. Thank you. So encouraging. Thank you. I would just like to, as much as possible, just call your names and appreciate you. Thank you, Al. I appreciate you, my beloved sister. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Didi. Thank you, AB. Thank you, Emilia. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Fortune. Thank you, Ifyok. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Nkiruka. Olumide, thank you very much. Peppo, Desmond, thank you. Rose Ayo, thank you. My diasporan sister, Sonia Ikelwa, thank you so much. Toyin Daniel, thank you. And I can see one beautiful lady here. Thank you very much. So I want to appreciate everyone. Thank you. We are rooting for you. We are cheering you on. And we are always here to support you. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful night rest. and a blessed week ahead. If you have your voter's card, please go out and vote. Very important. And influence, that's standard. That's one of the standard. Vote your conscience. Don't lower your standard. Yeah. And God will see us through. So have a blessed week ahead. God bless you.
So
guys.
if you were invited and maybe you are not in the WhatsApp group, you can save my number in case you want to reach me for anything.
Yeah, so my wife is putting her number right about now.